Yes, a very good morning, everyone watching us this morning. Once again, my name is Derrick, Abitegeka, and this is our next lecture about anatomy and physiology. So, if you're watching us for the first time, please recommend you to go and watch our first videos, because they are systematic in a way that one video takes you to another lecture video. So once again, I welcome you back. Today we're going to look at what we call the body planes. The body planes. And we shall say these body planes help us, health workers, identify where specific body structures or body organs and where they are located. Still, these body planes help us to dissect body regions. So when you're doing a dissection of a given body part, these planes guide us on the lines of dissection. And we shall say, body planes, these are imaginary lines used to divide the body into sections. They are imaginary lines that are used to divide the body into various sections. So, meaning, if I have a given body organ, or a given body structure, or a body, or human body, these imaginary lines help me identify the body sections, like we are going to see. And our first plane is what we call the sagittal plane. Sagittal plane. And we shall say the sagittal plane is an imaginary line that divides the body into left and right. The sagittal plane is an imaginary line that divides the body into left and right. So, sagittal lines or sagittal planes divide the body into left and right. And I will say sagittal planes can be in two forms. We can have mid sagittal and para sagittal planes. Now, the mid-sagittal plane, it divides the body into equal left and right. Meaning, when we divide our body, the left part is going to be equal to the right part. That is the mid-sagittal plane. If we can just do some simple illustration of these planes. If this is my body structure, and we have said sagittal planes divide this body into left and right. So, if I make my imaginary line here, so I'm having the right and the left. That is the sagittal line. It divides the body into right and left. That is my sagittal line. And we have said it is divided into two. We have a mid-sagittal that divides the body into equal left and right. So this was my sagittal plane. And we are saying this sagittal plane can be mid-sagittal. So for mid-sagittal, this imaginary line, it is going to divide into equal right and then equal left. So the right and the left are of equal sizes. If from here is 2 centimeters, even this should go 2 centimeters. So the right and the left are equal. That is a mid-sagittal plane. Then for a parasagittal, it is unequal left and right. Unequal left and right, meaning a parasagittal is a sagittal plane or imaginary line that divides the body into unequal left and right parts. If I am to draw my parasagittal lines, if this is the body, this is, so the parasagittal line can be here, like this. So the right is smaller, the left is bigger. That is what we call the parasagittal plane. So the right and the left are not of equal sizes. That is a parasagittal plane. For mid-sagittal, it divides the body into equal left and right. Those are sagittal planes. Then we shall go to what we call the coronal plane. Coronal plane, or what we call the frontal plane. The coronal plane divides the body into fronts, which in our terms we say the front means anterior. Then, so it divides the body into front, which is anterior, and behind, which is the posterior. So, if this is, for example, if this is my body structure here, so I'm supposed to dissect it in a way that creates a front part and a behind part. So if I make a line of dissection that is going to cut it, so I have the front and the behind, which is the posterior. So that is the coronal plane. Divides the body into front and behind. Meaning, if the body structure, the coronal line should be longitudinal like this. That is going to reach the posterior, the front and the back. So we shall have two body parts: the front part and the behind part, or the anterior part and the posterior part. That line that divides the body into front and behind is what we call the coronal plane. Okay, we are there. Then we have what we call the transverse plane. So transverse plane we shall say transverse plane divides the body into superior and inferior. Divides the body into superior and inferior. From our terminologies, we said superior means up and inferior means down. Meaning this line of dissection of this transverse plane is going to divide this body into superior and inferior. If this is my human being, maybe these are our arms. So if I'm to make a transverse plane to this person, I should be able to have the superior part and the inferior part. So this line that dissects is what we're calling the transverse line or transverse plane. But we have what is up and what is down. That is the transverse plane. It gives us the superior and the inferior parts. So when you are dissecting any body structure and you try to count the dissection line of dissection, the transverse plane, it should give you the superior and inferior parts. That is a transverse plane. Our next plane is what we call oblique plane. Oblique plane. And we shall say oblique plane divides the body at an angle. Oblique plane divides the body at an angle. So, if this is my body structure and I have to make an oblique plane or an oblique plane, so it should be at an angle. If I'm to show how, if this is my horizontal line, this is the right angle. This can be at a 65 angle. This can be at 45, this can be at 30, this can be at 25, this can be at 15. So these are all angles that are acting at the imaginary point. So if this is my 90, this can be my 60, this can be my 45, this can be my 30, this can be 15, this can be 10. So these are various angles that are oblique except to the 90. So any line of dissection at an angle is what we call an oblique plane. Meaning, if this is my body structure, if I'm to make imaginary lines, that line that is going to be dissecting it an angle is what we call an oblique plane. So this oblique plane can be at 60, can be at an angle. This object or this structure is what we call an oblique angle. If I have my structure of the liver, and maybe I want to make an oblique plane, I may make such an incision. That's an oblique plane. I may also make this cut. That's also an oblique cut. Depending on area of interest. So they are lines at angles. Those are what we call oblique planes. So if we can just do some simple illustration of all these planes that we have seen, I'm going to imagine is the structure of the liver, and I'll just make some simple illustration here. And if this is my structure of the liver, so we are going to demonstrate all these planes from our liver. So the first plane we said in Louise was a sagittal plane. And we said a sagittal plane will divide this liver into left and right. So to make that, I will do this. So this cutting of the liver, this is what we call the sagittal plane. And we say the sagittal plane can be mid-sagittal and parasagittal. So if I am to divide this into a mid-sagittal plane, the distance from here, let's say it is 2 centimeters, and also the distance from here, also 2 centimeters. So if I make that measurement that the left and the right balances, that line that is going to dissect it into equal. So I have 2 centimeters this side, so I have 2 centimeters this side. That line that does that in two equal parts, what we call the mid-sagittal plane. Then that line that is going to divide it into any size, left and right, but these are not of equal sizes. Meaning, I can have from here to here, when it is 5 centimeters to the right, and when I have 1 centimeter here. So my line can be here like this. So I have 5 centimeters this side, so I have 1 centimeter. Meaning the right is bigger, the left is smaller. So where I make that line, when these parts are not equal, the left will not equal the parasagittal plane. If I'm to make a coronal plane, we said a coronal plane divides the body structure into left, so into front and behind, or anterior and posterior. So my line of dissection is going from this upper structure, and I dissect it like this. So this is my liver structure. So if I make a line of dissection from the front and the posterior, so if I have the posterior and the front, is what we call the coronal plane. Then from there we talked about what we call the transverse plane. And you see the transverse plane divides the body into superior and inferior. So if I make a line of dissection through our liver like this, so I have what is up and what is down. This line of dissection is what we call the transverse plane. Then our last line of dissection was an oblique plane, which we said divides the body at any angle. So is that line of dissection an angle? So if I want to make a dissection on this part of the limb, on this lobe, that line of dissection I will make at an angle like this. Is what we call the oblique plane. It can also be made like this. It can also be made according to the area of interest. This is also our oblique plane. So these are our body planes that can aid us while making the body planes. Thank you so much for watching. In case of any question, please, our numbers are in our bio section. Contact us, any query, any comment, we appreciate. Once again, Abitegeka Derrick is my name. Thank you for watching.